Well, friends, this is kind of embarrassing. They finally did it. After a year of investigating President Biden and his family, House Republicans have finally produced a smoking gun. I'm just kidding. What really happened was House Republicans once again held a press conference announcing another bombshell or a smoking gun, whatever metaphor you want, when in reality, it was a nothing burger, which once again demonstrated the Republican Party's skewed priorities and their total incompetence. But before we unpack all that, if you haven't yet, please hit that like, subscribe, and the alert bell. All right, folks, we have several clips to play because just the Republican Party, they can't help but step on rakes. They can't help it. They are avoiding a clear path out of the rake field, and instead they are just compulsively stepping on rakes in front of the American people. We don't kink shame on this channel. We're a very progressive channel, and the reason we don't kink shame is because the Republican Party clearly has a humiliation fetish that they're broadcasting to the American people. So this is House Oversight Chairman James Comer. He's essentially the Grand Inquisitor in the Biden witch hunt. This is the bombshell he's announcing, and we'll unpack it together.
Today, the House Oversight Committee is releasing subpoenaed bank records that show Hunter Biden's business entity, Owasco PC, made direct monthly payments to Joe Biden.
They finally have it. They say we finally have. If you all want direct payments between Hunter Biden and his business and Joe Biden, we finally produced it. And so he's citing these records here, which you can't really make much out, but it's not from the House Oversight Committee page. These are the subpoena records. Okay, this is the thing by which they're predicating their latest piece of news. And again, before we unpack it, this is their star witness, Jonathan Turley. He's a Georgetown law professor. He's reacting to this with just absolute shock. What a bombshell of these direct payments between Hunter Biden and Joe Biden, which finally prove that President Biden, either as president or vice president, engaged in corrupt practices in exchange for money. This is what Jonathan Turley has to say.
And now we see joint accounts where money is moving to Joe Biden. We even have Joe Biden's house being listed for some of these payments by Hunter Biden. It's rather daunting to imagine what you need, according to the Democrats. So I think the moment of truth has arrived. Democrats have either got to show that they stand against corruption and approve an inquiry, or they have to take ownership of this, because influence peddling is the favorite form of corruption in Washington. But none of us have seen the likes of this.
Yeah.
So now, obviously, the fact that Hunter Biden listed Joe Biden's residence on the form of like bank statements is not uncommon. He had to list a permanent address. He was in and out of rehab. There's absolutely no evidence of corrupt transactions going to Joe Biden's home address. It's not consequential at all. But regarding the idea that this Hunter Biden company was sending direct payments to Joe Biden, isn't that the silver bullet? Isn't that the smoking gun? Isn't that the bombshell? Well, not really. So as Yashar Ali points out, so these three payments of $1,380 each, totaling $4,140, appear to be Hunter Biden paying his dad back for a truck loan / lease payments that his dad paid on his son's behalf when Hunter was low on cash. Of course, Hunter Biden being, again, a former drug addict who was very profligate with his spending. My source is a New York Post, conservative publication, the New York Post article about Hunter Biden's finances and emails from the Hunter Biden archive. And he cites as evidence. The Hill has also reported on this as well. So let's see. Goes in here at the bottom. I hate the fact that this clip keeps showing up. Okay, so Abby Lowell, who is Hunter Biden's attorney, he says, their Chairman Comer goes again, reheating what is old as new to try to revive his sham of an investigation, Lowell said in a statement. The truth is, Hunter's father, Joe Biden, helped him when he was struggling financially due to his addiction and could not secure credit to finance a truck. When Hunter was able to, he paid his father back and took over the payments himself. Reporting from the New York Post in April 2022, based on leaked emails from a hard drive purportedly belonging to Hunter Biden, had previously highlighted a list of Hunter Biden's bills that his then personal assistant said in an email would temporarily be covered by Joe Biden and add Hunter Biden's transitions in his career. Included in that was a regular $1,300 payment for a 2018 Ford Raptor truck, okay? Payment to JRB, Joseph Robinette Biden, from RHB, Hunter Biden, auto pay a Wasco account, said notes on the 2019 spreadsheet reported by the New York Post, purchased June 2018 after selling Silverado and Colorado trucks. It added, along with insured by Chubb, JRB's policy. Now, in addition to this being an absolute nothing burger, in which it was just a loan repayment that they've had evidence of for a year and a half. We're in December 2023. Look at the dates. It was purchased in 2019, or excuse me, June 2018. Do you know what Joe Biden was in June 2018? A citizen. He wasn't a senator. He wasn't vice president anymore. It was even before, not only before he was president, it was before he announced his candidacy. So none of this is illegal based on the evidence provided, and none of it's corrupt or unethical. It's actually fairly common, one would assume, of a loving father willing to, pay his son's truck payment when his son is on financial hard times. Now, why are Republicans doing this? Why are they just so thirsty? They're stepping on Rakes when they need not. They need not do it. There's a clear path. Just let it go. Just say, you know what? We've looked at this exhaustively, because you have over a year, and we found nothing. Of course, they can't do that because Donald Trump would be furious. Their hardcore base would be furious. Now, to try to justify formalizing the impeachment inquiry, which, by the way, hasn't been formalized, right? They didn't do a House vote, which means based under the Trump predicate, when Donald Trump was president and Democrats had not yet formalized the impeachment inquiry against him, and you formalize it by bringing it to a full House vote, Donald Trump used it as a basis by which to ignore subpoenas and ignore requests from Democrats. And so now, technically, if the Biden administration wanted to, they could absolutely cite the same precedent. They were like, listen, when your guy was in charge and we tried to impeach him, and it wasn't authorized by a full House vote, your guy ignored requests and subpoenas. He created a stone wall. So maybe President Biden should avail himself of that same option. Now, in this interview with Maria Bartiromo, James Comer is justifying, he's like, listen, now we finally have the votes to authorize a full House impeachment inquiry. It will reinforce the impeachment inquiry. We have the votes now. And Maria Bartiromo is like, well, if you didn't have them before, what makes you think you have them now? Listen to his answer.
Understand why you have had to take so long to actually get a vote to impeach or get this impeachment inquiry going. Do you feel that you have the votes within the House right now to get a formal impeachment inquiry?
I do. And I had a reporter ask, well, what's changed? Because the press has been writing we didn't have the votes forever. And I said, well, I'll tell you one thing that changed. We were in Washington, D.C. for 10 weeks, and there are about 15 or 20 moderates that they really worry about what CNN says or what the Washington Post writes. And they were getting in their head, Maria. But a great thing happened during Thanksgiving. The members went home. Many of them for the first time, and circulated for the first time in over 10 weeks. And they met people in Walmart and people on Main Street. And they're like, what in the world have the Bidens done to receive millions and millions of dollars from our enemies around the world? And did they not pay taxes on it? So they heard from their constituents, yes, we want you to move forward. We want to know the truth. And we expect the Bidens to be held accountable for public corruption. So
James Comer would have you believe that they do have the votes. And the reason they have the votes is because people in Republican constituencies, which I can imagine some MAGA Republicans being obsessed with this, but just when these Congress people go home, that Republican and Democrat, they're being stopped at Walmart, and not the war between Israel and Hamas or Russia's invasion of Ukraine, not inflation, not grocery prices, not the wage gap, not this, not that. But we haven't looked into Hunter Biden enough. Mr. Congressperson, listen, we really need to know what's going on with Hunter. We actually should go back further. What was Hunter Biden's allowance like when he was a teenager, and what was the source of that income? I don't buy it at all. But again, as far as the pressure on these moderates that James Comer's talking about, and I use moderates loosely, there are 18 Republicans who were elected in districts won by President Biden, so they do have a unique standard, right? There's a potential consequence to them politically if they just do this on a partisan basis. But Newt Gingrich, the former Speaker of the House, the guy who helped create the Republican Party as we know it today, just a bad faith, hyper-partisan actor, he gives the game away too as to why Republicans should vote if need be, to fully authorize this impeachment inquiry. Let's hear what he has to say.
If you're a Republican, do you really want to guarantee a primary opponent by voting against it, looking at it? This doesn't impeach him. This simply gives Congress additional power to force the White House to reveal documents and to force people to come and testify. And frankly, given...
So he again gives the game away. He's like, listen, so what if the evidence doesn't, justify the authorization of an impeachment inquiry? The fact of the matter is, do you really want to be primaried for this? And there may be some success to that pressure, because here you have Mike Turner. Again, I'm not going to say moderate, but I'll use air quotes moderate. He seems to be gesturing in the direction towards authorizing the impeachment inquiry, but he's also non-committal, right? He doesn't say no, but he doesn't say yes. So maybe the pressure will work.
Are you going to vote for this impeachment inquiry next week?
We'll have to see what the evidence and the information is. It has not yet been presented to us.
Is that really the top priority, though?
You can have more than one priority. Certainly, I think protecting and enforcing our laws is a priority. But
so he seems receptive to it. I mean, it's not exactly the resounding endorsement that James Comer seems to suggest to, well, it doesn't seem, just flatly indicates to Maria Bartiromo that he has. But then the other thing I want to point out too is Marjorie Taylor Greene was recently interviewed by Tucker Carlson. And if you can believe it, she claims that she is the source of the impeachment inquiry as we know it.
I got some things done. I have to say, I'm proud of it. I got an impeachment inquiry passed without a floor vote because I convinced him, announce it. This is something you can do as Speaker, announce an impeachment inquiry. Nancy Pelosi did it. Why can't we do these things?
So number one, note her priority in her mind, what is getting something done is announcing an impeachment inquiry into President Biden without a full House vote, not an impeachment itself, but that is an accomplishment to her. It's so bizarre. She and Jim Jordan and others like them, where it's all about just prosecuting these ridiculous, meaningless, insubstantial messaging wars. They don't care about passing legislation or producing material benefits for the American people. The American people in Walmart and all these other places that James Comer was talking about, the things that people actually care about. To her, it's like, yeah, I did come to Congress and I did get stuff done. I persuaded Kevin McCarthy to announce an impeachment inquiry into the president. So this might be interesting because you could easily pitch it. Okay, Republicans, moderate Republicans in these Biden districts. So if you vote without a really persuasive case, if you vote to authorize this impeachment inquiry, are you really just doing the bidding of Marjorie Taylor Greene? Interesting stuff. So once again, the Republican Party steps on a rake, grasping, scrambling for literally anything to try to tantalize their base, to get them by, because they're living minute by minute, day by day. But it's not working. I'm not entirely sure if they do bring this to a vote to authorize, that they'll get the vote to authorize. Then, of course, even if you get the vote to authorize, if you do want to impeach, you have to vote for the impeachment. It needs a majority. Right now, the Republicans have a 3-seat majority. They're about to become a 2-seat majority when Ohio's Bill Johnson retires. And there are 18 Republicans in Biden districts. And even if you got the votes, there would be no conviction in the Senate. Seems like a spectacular waste of time and political capital. But this is the political death spiral in which Republicans have locked themselves, because if they try to walk back the impeachment, they're going to infuriate Trump. They're going to infuriate the base. This is a catch-22 of their own making, which goes to show you how incredibly stupid and dysfunctional elected Republicans are, and why you should never, for any reason, if you're progressive or conservative, ever reward them with your vote. So vote blue in November, no matter who, and let me know what you think in the comments.